Alright, so obviously we're going to have to make some copies of this for the other side and the back. I think what I'll do before I do that is just actually build in the bracket piece that holds it to the corner post. Alright, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly what this looks like. It's fairly simple. It looks like it has a bit of an extrusion on the bottom where the hole is for the bolt. And I can't tell if that's round. It doesn't really look like it's round, but I think we'll make ours round just to make it a little easier. Okay, and we'll probably actually end up using subdivision on this piece, I think. Okay, so let's go into the front view to start. And I think we can probably use a tube here, so let's grab one on the create panel. And I'm just going to drag one out and try to center it on the rail. Okay, and we'll just get one in, give it a little bit of height, and we'll tweak the size in a second. Let's just actually move it into the right position. Alright, so I'm going to do that in left view, just drag it over and try to center it kind of on the corner post. Right, maybe like that. And we'll just figure out how big we need it to be. Okay, so in the modify panel, for radius 1, let's just maybe do 1.1. Okay, and radius 2, let's do maybe 1.3 just to make it easy. Alright, and for the height, let's try 1, see what that looks like. Alright, that's close. Maybe a little wider, let's try maybe 1.2. Alright, so that should be fine, I think, and I'm just going to move it over a bit to try to center it again. Okay, so let's get rid of the height segments by right-clicking them. Cap segments we'll leave at 1, and the sides we'll leave at 18. We will subdivide this, so I think that should be fine, so we'll leave all that stuff, and let's convert it to editable poly. Alright, I'm just going to change the color. Okay, and let's do this in the front view, it's probably going to be a little easier. Alright, so the first thing I do is just go to polygon and make sure you don't have ignore backfacing turned on, and let's just select the half that touches the post and delete it. Okay, and let's go into the perspective view. Alright, so I'm going to go to border and just grab the two borders around the open ends. Okay, and let's hold down shift and just drag on the X towards the post just to clone the edges. Okay, and we'll go right into the side of the post. Okay, doesn't have to be anything exact, you just don't want to have it, back like this so you see this sticking out. Okay, so just move it in until it clears like that. Alright, and I think we'll put our bolt hole right here. Okay, so before we actually start making any kind of cuts for this, let's go into isolation mode for a sec. Alt Q. Alright, so we are going to subdivide this. If we put subdivision on here right now, it's probably going to just collapse the sides. Let's take a look and see what it does. Alright, so I'm going to go into the modify list and put on a turbo smooth. Okay, and we'll do 2 iterations. Alright, I'm just going to turn the edges off here with F4. Alright, you can see it kind of just pancaked the sides. Alright, and that's just because we don't have any support edges in there to hold the shape and hold the corners. Okay, so let's delete the turbo smooth. Alright, turn our edges back on, F4. Okay, so let's go to edge and we'll just add some support edges. So let's grab one of these guys on the outside and hold control and grab one of the inside ones. Alright, and we'll just do a ring and then we'll open up connect. Okay, and for this we want to do 2, and we just want to pinch them apart so they get closer to the outside edges. Okay, and that's very important when you're working with subdivision, to add proper support edges to maintain the shape you want. Okay, and the closer you get these loops to the outside, the sharper that corner is going to be when you add the subdivision. Okay, and we want ours to be fairly tight, so let's go up a little bit. I think 90 should be fine for this probably. Alright, so we'll say 90 and OK, and then we'll also need to add some on the sides here. So grab one, control click the other, alright, and ring, and connect one more time, and we'll do 2 segments again, and I'm just going to lower the pinch amount down, alright, just so it's not so close to the top edge. Alright, and I kind of want them to be evenly spaced from the corner. Alright, so that looks good, so we'll say 50 and OK. Alright, so just like that, and that should hold the shape fine and give us a nice smooth corner. Alright, and because we deleted the end polygons here, that should be fine. It should hold the shape when we smooth. If these weren't deleted and you actually had polygons in here, you'd have to add some support this way as well, just to hold the corners so they don't collapse. Alright, but this should be fine. Let's test it. So I'm going to exit edge and throw the turbo smooth back on. Okay, and we'll do 2 again, 2 iterations, and I'm just going to check on isoline display here to hide some of the edges. Alright, so let's turn off our edges and take a look. Alright, you can see the difference it made. It's holding our shape nice, our corners look pretty good. Alright, so that should be fine, and the ends look good, so I don't think we need to add any that way. Okay, so let's delete the turbo smooth again and start working on the hole. Alright, so let's exit isolation mode, and I'm just going to go back into edge here. Alright, we're going to put our hole right here, so I think what I'm going to do is just add one more loop in here first. Alright, so let's grab one of these edges and ring it, and we'll do a connect. Okay, and this time we want to do just one segment, no pinch. Alright, and let's go into the front view for this, it's probably easier. Alright, so just one segment, and I'm just going to slide it over to the left a bit. Okay, maybe negative 25 or so on the slide, and okay. And then I'm going to grab this edge here and do a loop, and I'm just going to move the entire loop over to the right. Alright, and just try to center it between this loop here and this loop here. Okay, and this will be pretty much the center point of our hole when we put it in. Okay, so that should be fine. Okay, and one more thing I want to do before we start making any kind of cuts is just add another loop in here. So let's grab an outside edge, do a ring again, and a connect, and this time we'll do one, no pinch, no slide. Alright, and okay. We just want to have another loop right down the dead center. Alright, and I'm only doing this on the outside, not the inside, because I don't think I'm going to push the hole all the way through, because I don't think it's necessary in this case. Okay, so just like that. Alright, so let's go into the top view, and I'm just going to right click on top and go to views and change it to bottom. Okay, just so we can see it from the right direction. Alright, let's hit F3, turn our shaded faces on. Alright, so we're going to center our hole right on this point here. Okay, so I think what I might do just to make it a little easier to make our cuts is I'm going to go into the create panel, over to shapes, and I'm just going to grab a circle. Alright, and we'll drag one out and kind of center it on this point. Okay, and let's drag it out about as big as we think that piece needs to be when we pull it out for the bolt hole. Okay, so I'm going to say maybe 0.3 on the radius. Okay, and let's just zoom in, and I'm going to try to center it at the intersection of these edges. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, just like that. And let's open up the modify panel, and under interpolation, the steps will be set to 6 by default. Okay, and that's basically controls how many sides your circle has. Alright, so let's lower it down to 1. Okay, and that'll give us 8 sides on our circle, or an octagon shape. And that's important. When you're working with subdivision and you want to cut nice round holes into stuff, it's good to have 8 sides on your base mesh if you can. And it's going to turn out pretty much perfectly round every time if you do that. Okay, so that's a good little tip. Alright, so got 8 sides now, so let's select the bracket. And I'm just going to go up here and right click on the snaps button. Alright, and just check that I only have vertex turned on here and nothing else. Okay, so that's fine. Close that, and let's click it on. Alright, let's go down to cut. Okay, so we're going to use this as like a template to cut this shape into our bracket. And because we turn snaps on, it'll snap our cuts to the points on this circle, as you can see when we go around. Okay, and that's a lot easier than actually just manually blindly cutting this in. Okay, so let's start here on this edge, and I'm just going to click and go around and click on each point of the circle. Alright, all the way back to where we started, click, and then right click to end it. Alright, and we can turn off cut. Alright, so we don't need the circle anymore. Let's hit H and just select it, and then delete it with delete. Alright, so let's check it out in perspective, see how it looks. Alright, and as you can see, we copied that shape pretty much perfectly into our bracket. Alright, so let's turn off snaps now. We don't need those anymore. And as you can see, these are all n-gons here, these polygons. They have more than 5 sides, alright? And you definitely want to aim to try to have quads in your mesh, as many as possible. when you're going to work with subdivision, just because it's designed to work on quads, and if you have n-gons and triangles all over the place, you're probably going to get some weird results when you apply the turbo smooth. Okay, so let's quad this up first. Alright, so to do that, I'm just going to go to vert, and we'll just grab one of these guys, and I'm going to go over and control click the one diagonally from it. Alright, and we'll just hit connect, just to connect the verts, alright, on each side. Alright, you could also do this with cut if you want to, doesn't really matter. Okay. Alright, just like that. Alright, so now you can see we're all quads. So we shouldn't have a problem when we add our turbo smooth. Alright, so let's start pulling this out finally. Alright, so we'll just hold control and grab all four of these ones that make up our hole. And let's just extrude. Okay, and we don't need to go that much obviously, let's back it off. Alright, let's look at the reference. Alright, so I might go out a little bit more than that. Let's say maybe 0.3 on the extrusion height, and okay. That should be fine. And if we go into the front view here, we're going to notice that it's bent, obviously, because this face here is angled. Alright, so it's causing us to have a weird bend on our extrusion. Alright, so let's clean that up first. Let's go to vert, grab all the bottom ones here. Again, make sure you don't have back facing turned on. And we'll just go to move and just move them over a bit to straighten them out. Okay, just like that. And you can see the bottom of it's all whacked out too. So let's straighten that out. So I'm going to go to scale and just scale just on the Y. Alright, just down a couple of times just to flatten them all out so they're all the same level. Okay, and you could also use the make planar options down here to do that. It's basically the same thing. Alright, so that looks better. Okay, let's go into isolation mode here. It's probably a little easier. So Alt Q. Okay, so now that's all straight and everything, let's go to polygon. And we should still have these four guys selected. If not, just reselect them. And now let's actually inset these. So open up inset and lower the amount way down. Alright, I'm just going to say we'll do it maybe 0.1 on the amount. And okay. And now let's actually push them in to create the hole for the bolt. So extrude, and just take it down to a negative amount. Alright, we could probably see this better in the front view. Alright, so just lower this down to push it up. It doesn't have to be anything exact. We are going to put a bolt in here, so you're never going to see it. I'll just say negative 0.25, and okay. Alright, so there's our hole. We are going to turbo smooth it though, so we're going to have to add some support in here to maintain this shape. Alright, so the first thing we'll do is with these four polygons still selected, let's just inset them. And we'll do it a teeny little amount. Alright, maybe 0.01 and hit OK. Just want to have another loop around the inside here. Okay, now let's go to edge and just grab one of these edges on the inside of the hole and ring it and connect. And we'll do two again, two segments, and just pinch them apart so they get closer to the top and the bottom. Alright, so maybe like that. So we'll say 90 on the pinch, and okay. And we can probably do the same with the outside, so let's grab one of those, do a ring, connect. Alright, and 90 should probably be fine for these two, so we'll just hit OK. And then lastly, let's add some around the bottom here. So grab one of these guys, ring, connect. And let's lower the pinch amount down. Alright, we'll say 70 or so on the pinch, and okay. Alright, so that should maintain our shape just fine when we add the turbo smooth. We might have to add in our loop in here, but we'll see how it looks. Alright, so let's exit edge and apply our turbo smooth modifier again. Okay, turbo smooth, and we'll do two iterations and check on isoline display. Alright, so let's turn off our edges with F4 and take a look. Alright, so not bad. And you can see because we used an 8-sided octagon shape as our base, it turned out almost perfectly round. Alright, if we went up another iteration in turbo smooth, it would probably turn out pretty much perfect. Alright, but that's overkill. We don't need to do that, so let's take it down to 2. That's plenty, I think. And this doesn't actually look too bad, so I don't think we need to add another loop in there. Alright. Okay, so that should be fine, I think, for the bracket. Alright, and yeah, just a note, when you're working with subdivision, if you have a scene or a model that has tons of pieces that are all subdivided and it starts lagging in the viewports, slowing down your computer, you can always turn the iterations down to 0 and then just tick on render iterations and pump it up to whatever you want it to be, 2 say, and it'll only add the turbo smooth when you render. Alright, so you'll get the result of it, but you don't have to have it slowing down your viewports. Alright, in this case we only have a couple of these, so I'm just going to take that down to 0, turn this off, and just put 2 on. Alright. Okay, so let's exit isolation mode and see how it looks with the actual post in here. Just going to hit Z. And again, you can always center your viewports by hitting Z. Alright, so not bad. It's close enough, I think, to our reference, so we'll say that's good for that piece. Let's name it. I'm just going to call it railing bracket. Okay, and we can probably center the pivot on this guy too. So hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, centered object, and then turn this off. Alright, so let's save one more time, just so I don't have to rebuild that if I have a crash. So before we actually start copying this piece around, let's add the bolt to it just to finish it off. Alright, so I'm going to select it and go into isolation mode, Alt Q, and let's jump into the bottom view for this. Probably be a little easier. Alright, and for the bolt, let's just use a cylinder. So I'm going to grab one of those, and we'll just drag one out, and I'm going to try to center it on the hole. Alright, I'm not sure how big we'll have to go, so let's just get one in there and give it a little bit of height. Okay, and then let's jump out to the left view and just move it up into place. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it up. Alright, I'm just going to leave it down a bit, just like this, so you can see part of the shaft. Let me put that in. Okay, so maybe like that. And let's go into the modify panel. And the first thing I do is get rid of the height segments again. Right click on there, take it down to 1. And then let's take the size down to 6. Alright, so it actually looks like a bolt. Alright, and the radius might be a little too big. Alright, I'm just going to drop it to maybe 0.45. And I think I want it to be a little thicker, so let's up the height. Alright, so for the height I'll say maybe 0.3. Alright. And let's convert this to editable poly. Alright, so I think we'll do a pretty simple bolt for this. It's a really tiny detail. So let's go to polygon and grab that polygon there. And let's do an inset. Alright, so lower the amount way down, and I'm just going to look in the top view here in wireframe, F3, just so I can kind of size the inset to the hole. Alright, so that's pretty close. So I'll say 0.24 and OK. Alright, let's actually extrude it up into the hole. So let's open up extrude. Alright, and lower the amount way down. Alright, I'll say 0.6 or so, and OK. Alright, so just like that. Now technically, you know, the bolts should have a round shaft. I think I'm going to leave it 6-sided though in this case, just because it's so tiny. I don't think you're really going to notice if it has 6 sides or not, so it'll be a little quicker doing it that way. Alright, so I'm just going to go to wireframe, and I'm going to delete that polygon on the top because we don't need it, so delete. Alright, and I think we can just soften up some of these edges, so let's go to edge. Alright, and I'm just going to grab all the bottom ones and the side ones. Alright, so just drag through, just make sure you don't have back facing turned on. And then let's get one of these guys. Alright, I'm just going to loop that. Alright, actually let me undo that for a second. Control Z. I'm just going to manually select these ones, holding Control. Okay, just around the head. Alright, so just all the ones around the head. And we'll do these all at once, so chamfer. Alright, that might be fine, so we'll do 0.02 on the amount, and OK. And then we can probably do this one here too. So let's grab it and loop, and chamfer. And I'm just going to drop the amount down to maybe 0.01, and OK. And exit edge. Alright, so a pretty quick and simple bolt, but I think that's all we really need to do in this case. Alright, so let's change the color on it. Apply our shader and name it. Alright, so we'll just call this bracket bolt or something, just so we know what it is, and let's center the pivot point again. Alright, so I think that should be fine. Let's exit isolation mode and see how it looks. Alright, so that's not too bad. It's close to the reference, not exact, but it should be fine, I think. Okay, so we'll say that's good for the bracket, and because we're going to make copies of it, I think what I might do to make it a little easier is just group them together. So let's select the bolt and control click the bracket. Alright, and we'll just go up here to group and hit group, and then we'll just call this bracket or something. Okay, and just put them in their own group. Alright, so with that done, finally, let's save. Okay, so obviously we're going to need a copy down at the other end, so let's do that. Do this in the left view. Alright, I'm just going to check and see if this is centered to the rail. Alright, it looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to shift drag a copy on the X over to the other rail. Alright, and we'll do copy and OK. And I'm just going to see if this one's centered. Alright, that's pretty good right there. Alright. Okay, so we finally got our brackets done and our railing, so we can start actually making copies of this. I'm just going to check the height of this rail. Alright, so that actually might be sitting pretty much in the right place. I think I'll copy it and then we'll see if we have to move it down. Okay, so let's select the brackets and the rail, holding control, and I'm just going to shift drag a copy up on the Z. Alright. And we'll just go pretty close to the top, but not all the way to the top. Okay, like that, and we'll say copy and OK. Alright, I'm just going to try to judge if I have to move these down at all. Open up the reference again. Alright, that actually might be fine. If you want to adjust them or lower the height down, you could. I think I might leave mine like that. Alright, so with that done, we can actually copy them over to the other side, so let's do that next. Alright, so in the front view, I'm just going to drag a selection around the whole thing up here. Alright, so both rails, both corner posts, and both brackets, and I'm just going to deselect the corner posts. Alright, just so I have both rails and all four brackets selected. Okay, and let's go into the bottom view, and I'm going to change this back to top now, so views, top. Alright, we'll blow this up so we can see. Okay, so with those all selected, all 6 of those pieces, I'm going to go back to rotate and just hold shift and just rotate a copy 180 degrees. And I also have my angle snaps still turned on up here. Okay, so say copy and OK, and then I'm just going to drag it over to the other side. Alright, and we'll position this in the front view. Alright, so just zoom in here, and I'm just going to move them over so the rail is just touching the post again, like on the other side. Okay, let's check it out, see how it looks. Alright, not looking too bad. Might be a good idea to do a save, so let's do that. Alright, so we're going to need one more copy of it for the back. This one here. Okay, so we'll just reuse this piece again. So let's go into the front view. Alright, just so it's a little easier to select, I'm just going to grab the top one and both brackets. Alright, and then we'll go back to the top view. And we'll just do this the same way. So let's go to rotate and have angle snaps turned on. And let's just rotate a copy 90 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, just like that, and copy and OK. Alright, and I'm just going to turn my grids on with G and just move it over and try to kind of center it on the origin line. Okay, and then I'm going to move it back. Alright. Okay, and let's just move it in the left view as well to get it into position. So I'm just going to move it down and move it in so it's just touching the post again. Alright, just like that. And then let's try to center it between the two rails. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, and I think we're going to be short here probably as well. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, we're coming up a little short. I'd like that to be a little longer. Alright, so let's adjust the length on the rail one more time. Okay, so I'm just going to select it. And we can probably do this in the front view. Alright, so let's go into the modify panel, and I'm just going to drop down into edit poly. Okay, and go to vertex. And I think we'll do one end at a time, so let's grab the right end first and just pull it over a bit. I think I'll try to line it up maybe with the ends of these pieces. Alright, so just like that maybe on that end, and then same with this end. Alright, just pull it out. Okay, this should work. And let's exit vertex, and I'm just going to center the pivot again. Alright, hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, centered object, and click that off. Alright, and let's check its placement, so right click on the move tool, and I'm just going to zero out the X spinner one more time, okay, just to make sure it's sitting in there evenly. Alright, and we can close this. Alright, and as you can see, our brackets don't match up. Alright, so let's move those. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that guy and just move it over and kind of center it on the post again. Okay, and then same with this end. Grab it and just move it over. Okay, so let's take a look. Alright, I'm just going to hit Z. Alright, so that's not looking too bad. Alright, I think that pretty much finishes off the railing. If we look on the reference picture, zoom in here, you can see down on the square rail, it has these two bolts. Alright, and we didn't put those in. I think we can probably maybe just reuse our bolt we made for up here and just put it down there. I didn't bother cutting any holes or anything in the square rail for that because I don't think it's really worth it. So yeah, we'll just maybe reuse this and just put it down on the sides. Okay, but for now let's save, just because we're done the railing. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in and select the bracket. Okay, and I think we'll ungroup this temporarily. So let's go up to group and down to ungroup. Alright, I just want to be able to copy the bolt and not have it be part of that group. Okay, so let's select the bolt, and I'm just going to go to move, and I'm going to hold down shift and just drag on the X. Okay, just to make a copy of it. Alright, we'll do copy, and I think I might just change the name here. I'll just call this square rail bolt or something, just so we know what it is. Okay, and hit OK, and then we can probably just group these guys again. Doesn't really matter. So I'll select both and just go up and group, and I'll just say OK. Alright, so let's select our bolt copy. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of pull it down so it's close to where it needs to be. Alright, I think we're going to have to scale it up. It's quite a bit smaller than we need it to be. So let's go into the front view and just move it into position first. Alright, and let's rotate it. Alright, so rotate, and I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees, just so it's facing in the right direction. And I'm just going to move it in so it kind of touches the side. Alright, and we'll have to scale it up, so let's go into the left view for that. I'm just going to zoom in, and we'll go to scale, and I'm just going to scale on the triangle again, alright, just to make it a bit bigger. Alright, that might be too big. Let's go down a little bit. Alright, so that's probably fine. And again, just do it as much as you feel it needs. Alright, so with that done, let's go into the front view and just position it now that we have it the right size. Alright, so I'm going to go to move and just move it in. Alright, just so that the bottom of the head is touching the outside of the rail. Alright, like I mentioned before, we didn't cut a hole for this or anything. I think what I might do, just in case you ever did a render where you could actually see inside the rail, let's actually pull the shaft over. Okay, so it looks like it actually goes somewhere. Alright, so let's go into the modify panel and go to vertex. Alright, and again, make sure you don't have back facing turned on. And I'm just going to grab all these guys here and just drag them over into the other side of the rail. Alright, and we can exit vertex. Alright, so let's just take a look. Alright, so just like that. And I think we want to move it back a bit. Let's look on the reference. Alright, so it looks like it's close to the end of this block piece. Alright, so let's go into the left view. Okay, I'm just going to move it over, alright, just so it's lined up with that block back there that we made. Okay, I'll just stick it right there maybe, and take one last look. Alright, that's probably fine, because again, you're probably never really going to be able to see in there anyway. Alright, and I think one thing I might do before we clone it is just give it a little bit of random rotation. Alright, it's looking kind of perfect right here, how it's straight up like that, so let's rotate it. So I'm going to go to rotate and just turn off my angle snaps here. Alright, I'm just going to spin it just a little bit randomly. Okay, and then we'll copy it down to the other end. Alright, so let's go to move, hold down shift, and just drag a copy over here. Alright, we'll put it in about the same position, right at the end of that block piece. And copy and OK. Alright, and I'm just going to rotate it a little differently, just so they don't match. Okay, now let's take a look. Alright, so that's probably fine for those guys, so let's select both of them, hold control, okay, and let's just copy them to the other side. I'm just going to do that in the front view again. Alright, and we'll go to rotate, and I'm going to turn my angle snaps back on, and just hold shift, and just rotate 180. Okay, like that, and we'll say copy and OK, and then we'll just drag these copies over to the other side. Alright, we probably could do this in the front view. Alright, so just get them sitting in the right spot, like that. Okay. And you could, if you wanted to worry about it, you could actually come in here and just rotate these a little differently. Again, it's probably not really going to matter because you can't see both sides at the same time. Alright, so you'd never notice. Alright, so I'll just leave it. Alright, so that finishes up the railings, I think, completely. So we'll start working on the handle next. Let's just do another save. Okay.